Olá, olá, olá! Bom dia a todos! Canal Física Luan, vamos hoje mostrar aqui o lançamento da Soyuz, foguete russo, lançamento russo. Sejam todos muito bem-vindos. Deixa eu ativar aqui o áudio do desktop. Vamos ver aqui. Opa, opa! Som, foi. Deixar aqui. Oi, oi.
We'll keep an eye on and hear some of the call outs as we move closer to the countdown. And the activity will really begin around the T-minus 7-minute mark, where the launch key will be inserted into the launch bunker, a real key, and it'll transition this launch sequence into automatic mode. And we just heard the call outs that the Soyuz 2.1A booster and the Progress now running on autonomous power as we continue to march towards the countdown. At T-minus 5 minutes and 30 seconds, the launch control will report the range in Baikonur to be clear, and the Soyuz rocket ready to begin its journey. And about a minute and a half after that, the onboard systems will be switched to control, and everything will make its journey towards T-minus 0. As nightfall begins to settle in over Baikonur, again, overcast skies, 37 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can see the venting of the propellant being loaded into that 2.1A booster, the 3-stage booster to give the 90th Progress mission its ride to the orbiting laboratory. As Progress begins its journey to the International Space Station, again, we mentioned the Soyuz 2.1A booster in 3 different stages. First stage separation will occur around 1 minute and 58 seconds into flight. And then shortly, second stage shutdown and engine occur will be around 4 minutes and 37 seconds into its journey. And then ultimately placed into the initial orbit is Progress, 8 minutes and 49 seconds into its ride upwards. It'll arc out towards the northeast, in which it'll be at an incline of 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator to match that of the International Space Station, and begin its journey to climb up in the atmosphere and eventually catch up to the International Space Station. Onboard recorders have been activated for today's launch as we approach 15 minutes to go from Launch Pad 6, Site 31 in Baikonur. And again, this 90th Progress mission will deliver 2.7 tons of food, fuel, and supplies to the Expedition 72 crew. Docking scheduled for the early morning of Saturday Central Time. Countdown proceeding along nominally from the launch pad as you continue to see the venting coming off the Soyuz 2.1A booster. And again, as we get closer, T-7, the launch key will be inserted. And then 1.5 minutes later, launch control will report the range to be clear. And then from there, closer to T-minus 2 minutes and 45 seconds, the booster tank will be pressurized for flight, and that'll optimize the flow of fuel and help add some structural support to the rocket. With about 1.5 minutes left in the countdown, 90 seconds, ground propellant feeds will be terminated, and then the Progress will be on internal power and begin its auto sequence starting. And that's when you will see those 2 umbilicals, again, buttressed up against the side of the Soyuz booster, prepare to disconnect. The first, the larger one, at T-minus 30 seconds, and then closely followed 15 seconds later by the second. And with about 12 seconds remaining in the countdown, the launch command will be issued. And when that launch command is issued and the second umbilical retracts, that'll begin the sequencing for the launch to get underway as we approach 12.5 minutes until launch time. And at this morning, the International Space Station, the destination for Progress 90 on Saturday morning as it begins its journey today, currently wrapping up its orbit over the Pacific Ocean and approaching the southeast coastline of Chile and across Argentina. And there you can see the International Space Station and the destination for where Progress 90 will be joined, and that'll dock itself to the spacing port of the Poisk module. Launch still on time for 6:22 and 23 seconds a.m. Central Time, 5:22:23 p.m. in Baikonur. The journey for Progress would begin again this past Monday, rolling out to Site 31 in the morning hours and raised to its vertical state that you see now. The gantry arms and the 2 umbilical towers would be connected and help the engineers complete electrical and fuel line connections. Those gantry arms spread about 40-ish minutes ago to expose the rocket. And now the 2 umbilicals providing those last moments of fuel and electrical power before eventually getting into the key moments of the countdown. Here you can see the balcony camera of the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov, just outside of Moscow, in which those teams, alongside the teams here in Houston in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, closely monitoring this morning's launch, or this evening from Baikonur perspective, as they await those final few moments before the launch of the 90P aboard the Soyuz 2.1A booster. For those just tuned in, you are watching the final preparations of launch of Progress 90 from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, Launch Pad 6, Site 31, where the unpiloted Progress resupply vehicle will begin its journey to the International Space Station. In about a minute and a half from now, you'll hear the commands of the launch key to be inserted into the launch bunker, and that'll transition the launch sequence into an automatic mode.
Есть готовность ППТ 30. Доклад 30 принял. Первый.
Aboard the unpiloted Progress resupply vehicle, 2.7 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 72 crew. And that includes 1,900 and plus pounds of food, over 900 pounds of water, 2,570 plus pounds of supplies, and 95 pounds of nitrogen, with the docking for the Progress vehicle scheduled for Saturday morning at 8:36 a.m. Central Time, 9:36 a.m. Eastern Time.
Минутная готовность. Первый. Минутную готовность принял 20. Минутную готовность принял 30. Минутную готовность принял 50. Минутную готовность принял 60. Минутную готовность принял 70. Принята готовность. 1 минута. 60-й сброс шоу-объекта. Есть сбросить шоу-объекта 60-й. Есть готовность системы измерения 70-й. Доклад руководителя работ принял.
Now inside 7 minutes to go from launch of the 90 Progress. And with that, the launch key has been inserted into the bunker, and the launch sequence is now transitioning into automatic mode.
Код 30 принял. Первый. Сброшенного объекта проведен. Замечаний нет. Космический аппарат к запуску готов. 60-й.
About a minute away from launch control that you'll hear reporting the range in Baikonur to be clear and for the Progress to begin its journey to the International Space Station.
Есть ключ на старт 30-й.
Inside 6 minutes to launch. Launch control has now reported that the range in Baikonur is clear and the Soyuz 2.1A booster is ready to begin its journey.
Есть продувка 30-й. Продувка 60-й. Доклады 3.
As we approach the T-minus 4-minute mark, onboard systems will be switched into control, and the fuel lines and other elements of the rocket will begin to be purged with nitrogen to fireproof them and remove vapors of fuel and oxidizer. Now inside 4 minutes until launch of Progress 90 to the International Space Station. Again, those fuel lines and other elements of the rocket are now being purged with nitrogen to fireproof them and remove any vapors of fuel and oxidizer. As you can see, the venting of that propellant coming off the rocket as it's entering its critical phase of the countdown in preparation for launch. In just a few moments, the booster tank will begin pressurizing for flight. This will optimize the flow of fuel and help add structural support to the rocket on its journey into its initial orbit. There you can see that the rocket upright and ready, the tank again being pressurized, and you're going to start to see the ground propellant coming to a close and be terminated around T-minus 90 seconds until launch, and that venting will slow along the side of the rocket.
Есть на духовке 30-й. Есть на духовке 70-й. Есть прошел система измерения 70-й. Доклад руководителя. Водитель работу принял. Первый.
Approaching 90 seconds to launch. With 60 seconds remaining, the Progress will run on internal power, and auto sequence will begin. One minute to Progress 90 launch, and now running on internal power.
Есть переход блока третьей ступени на бортовое питание. Есть отрыв разъема всего блока третьей ступени.
And there you can see the first umbilical retracting and as separated from the booster. In about 20 more seconds, the second umbilical will also begin separating, initiating the launch sequence. Ignition. Second umbilical retracting. Soyuz running up to full power, and we have liftoff. Liftoff, the 90th Progress resupply ship. It has cleared the tower as it lights up the evening sky in Baikonur on its way to the International Space Station. Control parameters nominal as the first stage propels the 90th Progress skyward. Structural parameters nominal as well. Good first stage performance. Vehicle reported as stable, delivering 102 tons of thrust from its 4 boosters and single engine. Thruster chamber, as well as yaw pitch and roll, all nominal. Minute and 15 seconds into flight, and everything so far nominal for the 90th Progress.